Hi, this is Richard Dunn for this presentation on loops, conditional statements, functions, variables, parameters, arrays, and associative arrays. And I'm glad to be here today. I do have my screen shared so that we can go over a few of these things and show you the work that I've been doing on that. So first of all, let's talk about loops. Loops are where you have the code going through a continual loop until a specific condition is met. Excuse me. So what we have here, and my cursor is going to be kind of weird, so I'm going to try and steer this as best I can. What I have here is a script. This is going to be my first script, and what I have is an array with a number 6 of items in it. In this case, for really kind of this whole thing, I tried to imagine designing an adventure game. And in an adventure game, you might open a chest and there might be a random item in it. In this case, we have an arrow, a bow, a staff, an amulet, a sword, and a shield. So what we want to do in this case is I want it to go ahead and list out all of the items that are in the chest. So what I've done is I've created a loop where each time it's going to go through, it's going to grab an item out of the chest, it's going to display it, and then it's going to go back and increment the number, and it's going to display it again, and it's going to keep doing this until the number of the variable I that we're looking at here is greater than the number of items in the chest, which here is defined by chest.length. So let me walk through this a little bit more clearly. We have our array, we have a text variable, we have our variable I that's going to count how many items in the chest we've looked at. So at the beginning, I is going to equal 0. As long as I is greater than, or as long as I is less than the number of items in the chest, which is chest.length, we're going to increase I by 1, and then we are going to take the number from the, or take the item from the chest, and we're going to display it as text. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and show this running live. Just one moment. All right, so there's going to be some spoilers here, but this is basically my website that I created to show these. So I wanted to have this set to a button. I've been having trouble with buttons today. I don't know why, but here we've got it. We've got our arrow, our bow, our staff, our amulet, our sword, and our shield. So very easy. So in doing that, that covered, let's see, that covered loops, that covered functions, that covered variables, and it covered arrays. So knocked out a lot of things just in showing that. So let's go ahead and talk for a moment about if-then statements. Funny story, my wife actually fell in love with me over an if-then statement. I was not fell in love, but she was impressed by me. I was teaching a gospel doctrine class, and I used an if-then statement to show a gospel topic. And she was a computer science major, and she was very impressed that this random guy at the top of the class knew what if-then statements were. So what I've done for my if-then statement is I've made a little thing to do heads or tails. And what I've done in order to do that is I have had it pull a random number. And so first of all, we've got if math.random is less than 0.05, then it's heads. And if it's otherwise, then it's tails. So if heads, if else, tails. And we just went ahead and pulled it. So once again, wanted to have this set to a button. I don't, but every time I refresh this, you can see it flips periodically between heads or tails. Not every time I do it because it is random, but it shows heads or tails. So for the last thing that I wanted to show was associative arrays. And associative arrays, as far as I can tell, associative arrays basically is the idea that you can associate certain numbers with an array and kind of set an address to it. And you can call based on that address. So here I have an array. It's called treasure. This going back to my idea of pulling a random item out of a chest. And so I've set a number of things. Treasure 0 is sword. Treasure 1 is shield, bow, rope, going on and on and on. Then I have some variables. I've got math.random, and then I multiplied it by tens and rounded it off so we could get a nice round number. And I set all that to variable I. And then, let me scroll this down a little bit. What it does is it's going to give that element ID to be whatever part of the variable is associated with treasure I. So let me go back to my thing here and start refreshing it. What you can see is every time I refresh the page, it's pulling a random item out of that chest. Again, I wanted to have it set to a button. It didn't work. I don't know why. But that's really kind of my presentation. That's loops, that's conditional statements, that's functions, variables, parameters, arrays, and associative arrays. And again, my name is Richard Dunn. Thank you very much for your time.